Michael, let's start off with this. Help.
Wait, I never agreed to less than 10 minutes.
Oh, I know.
That's not in my contract.
This is the sound of a modem. This is some ASMR rather than a really loud sound. Thanks for listening. Welcome to our editors. My name's Jeff Greenberg. I'm the lead moderator, a consultant in post production, and this is where me and my friend Michael Kammes we talk about and deconstruct some parts of the R editors subreddit. Hello, Michael.
Hello, Jeff. Greetings and salutations.
Greetings and salutations, my friend. Has it been an exciting week?
It's been a very productive week, yes.
I like productive weeks. I do. I do. The kids are back at school, and like the last 2 weeks of my life have been crazy, wonderfully productive.
I've had a lot of consulting work this past week. There was a little lull after Bebop, and now consulting is picking up. So
I
I'm
like
happy to
that. I
be
like that. We
using some of my gray matter once again.
and we've got a fun FMK today. For those of you who this is your first episode, we deconstruct a couple threads. We do two of them in long form, and then we do a short form rapid fire series, and then we end up with an FMK about an area of a topic, and then we do a close. And with that being said, there are all sorts of fun markers to make it easy. Our editors is the professional side of post production for editorial on Reddit. Michael and I are huge fans of it. And with that, I think it's time for us to go to long forms.
Let's do it.
All right, Michael, number one here. Ask a Pro Weekly. Hey, I wanted to get into the idea that we would cover one of our staple threads here at our editors. We've got a couple of them. We have a Monday Ask a Pro, and we have on Saturdays a career thread. And the Ask a Pro thread is kind of where we kind of slush a lot of stuff that might be somebody kind of breaking in, or just, hey, I want to ask somebody who's got way more experience. That's what the Ask a Pro is. And in fact, I go specifically into is school worth it? Which editor should you pay for? Is it a side hustle? What should I set my rates at? Graduating from school. That's what all this for, and it points out the wiki. Michael, I read it about once or twice a week and comment. Do you get in here at all?
I get in there. I like seeing what other people have to say because a lot of times when it's asking an editor, it's talking about, or ask a pro, a lot of it is kind of soft skills or how to approach getting a job. And whereas I tend to fall more on the technical side of things, I kind of like to sit back and see what professionals say in that vein without interrupting with zeros and ones.
I think it can certainly work in so many different categories, this thread, and it's meant to be sort of a catch-all, especially for people leaning into it. And if you're watching this, please do me a favor, jump into this thread, once a week, and just be helpful to people starting out, just like somebody helped you start out in the industry. With that, I've got four I've kind of picked out here, Michael, and I want to start with this one that's at the top of it, which is I'm the editor. And by the way, I think this one should have totally gone on the main part of the sub, but I'm the editor. There's an agency producer and client. The client wants to see colored versions for viewing. And this poor editor is caught in between and stuck, unfortunately, having to do a colored work somehow. Um, if we take a look, film editor gives some great advice here. It's not on you, but you've got to manage the solution. That's part of those soft skill things you and I talk about a lot. And poor Wacko here, that's our in this sense, OP. They want a final colored look. I can't buy an extra day. It's a small budget project. I'm struggling with the negotiations, even though I have a signed agreement with limitations. You got thoughts on this, my friend?
Well, I definitely agree that, you have to throw a bait, especially if you're shooting log or some kind of raw file, throwing some kind of LUT on there just to get it into the 709 space. I think anyone who's doing any kind of editing does need to know how to at least balance things. And I mean more than just auto color, because invariably, even when you're a professional editor working with new clients, you're still going to have people who say, that color doesn't look right. Is that going to be changed? Well, of course it's going to be changed. We're in the creative editorial phase. This is just to get timing and story, etc. But I think there does need to be a base level of color correction or grade But if you are getting pushback from the client who says, I need more, then that's something that has to be negotiated up front, unfortunately.
Has to be negotiated. And then the other part of it is, I think for better or for worse, we've leaned into a world where the clients are less sophisticated and we need to do more to either educate them about, hey, no, this is going to be terrible looking until we spend the money for the color pass, and the sound will just be adequate until we do the sound pass. Or you've got to start budgeting in and saying to the client, if you want this costs some money and it costs a time. We can't get away from those two things. So if you're looking for it to be perfect so you can do an approval, it's going to cost money. And there's a really good piece here from Think Nuggets here that he liked the film editor's comment, but that second to last paragraph, everything in the edit should be like this, a negotiation of sorts. You're the experts. They only know what they want. They make requests. Even if it's not log, you can get it to something basic, one-click color correction. Every project's different. Clients are appreciative when you're able to be flexible, know your boundaries and stick by them. And if you know by agency, you're talking an ad agency and they're notorious for trying to get things by you. Oh man, do I know that story? They promise anything to get the client, they promise everything during it. Uh, that whole separate thing about what can actually get done. Oh, yeah, we can track, we can blur that out, we can replace that. Oh my God, that stuff is awful.
There's a great phrase I learned several years ago by a former manager, and it was in lieu of, or saying, if I do this, what can I put on the back burner? And so a response to this may be, I can certainly do a color pass each time we do an approval, but that will also mean I still have to do a color pass at the very end. So that means you're introducing more hours of labor just to get that color earlier in the process, and that's going to cost more. So I can charge you more and I can do a color pass with each approval. But if we do it at the end, it's contained, it's a linear process. We don't have to keep going back to different cuts, a different color. I can do it once, it will be less expensive.
I'm
So that
trying
may
to
be a
save
way
you
to.
money. I'm trying to save you
Exactly.
money.
So instead of saying, no, I can't do it, say, I can do it, but the ramifications are more time, more money. We can do this at the end. It'll be less expensive and more streamlined. And I think that's a good way of presenting that, not just saying, I can't do it, but giving a solution, albeit one that they're not going to like, but it's better than saying no.
I think it's always important to have a solution as part of the ingredients with the stuff. Um, on a slightly different note, just peeling back the veneers here. Here's a part of the thread that was removed, and we get to see that because I'm looking at this on not only under old Reddit but as the moderator view, where we've removed this person's post, and we've removed it because it's really like this person is saying, "I'm looking to pay people," and isn't very clear about what that payment is. And we have this rule that we force people to post the amount of money that they want to spend in some way, shape, or form that's digestible to a day rate, a hourly rate, or that the person goes, I think it's going to take 2 days and this is what my budget is. Because our moderating team has this whole concept of a level of transparency. Did you catch in California they're trying to produce the same sort of thing with, because you're in California, with job listings, that they have to post what the salary range is? I love this idea.
I love the idea. I think it's kind of a utopian dream, because if we get into things, and there was a big thread on this on LinkedIn, actually. I don't want to say the post facility, but a larger post facility here in LA had a job posting for a senior colorist, but I think they put experience entry level and had no salary assigned to that. When you and I both know, when you're working at the high end of color, it's not just how good you are, it's what clientele you can bring. And the clientele you bring is going to influence how much they're going to pay you. So I think there's some places where posting a salary is going to be rough, especially when it's commission based. But I think at a base level, if it's not commission based and it's just you're getting paid for X amount of hours per week, per month, per year, I think it should be there, because I think the amount of time that we spend going back and forth trying to find a happy medium is like going to a car dealership. And I'm a much more fan of going to CarMax and saying, what am I paying?
Yeah,
Just give me that price. Let's move on.
absolutely. Brings us to the second one from this thread that I want to bring up. I'm a one man band. It's oh hey hey CMYK. I love that. I'm a one man band doing a lot of doc and doc adjacent stuff. I'm trying to improve my editing. I wish I could sit in with somebody who really knows what they're doing and watch them make those decisions in real time. Are there any YouTube channels or, and I'm saying this here, Twitch that do it in depth? Um, in the post, it's the mention of uh, you get more if you orbital probe cannon. Gotta love that. Reach out to documentary areas in your area. How many are willing to let people shadow? In regards to Casgle, with regards to narrative structure, the fundamental level, it's storytelling. Learn more storytelling. Uh, Film editor, who I just love film editors' advice throughout here, is for documentary inside the edits the far best resource. When I read this, Michael, I wanted to bring this up because I think it's been missing for a while, is that internship, mentorship, collusion of people who kind of guide you into some of these skills because how accessible, hey, I can just use Premiere and, I've watched some YouTube dissections and I think I'm good to go.
Unfortunately, that's the way the industry has gone. By no means being a gatekeeper, but when machines and editing bays cost tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars, the only way you could learn how to use it was by sitting in with someone. So there's a great apprentice program through the film and television industry where you learned not just how to drag your knuckles over the buttons, but also how to interact with people and how to make creative decisions based on X, Y, and Z. And this is how an experienced person does it. And now those bays aren't that expensive. And so people can just jump in without it. And unfortunately, you don't learn some of those hard-earned lessons that some others folks have. And I'm not gatekeeping. It just means we have to learn in a different way. You've brought up a few good places. I think Sven Pape, this guy edits.
I think
That's a
it's
great.
powerful.
Sven is fantastic. But I still think there's something to be said for being in a room with someone to see things like body language, right? When are they turning around to talk to someone? When are they taking breaks? Not just a screen sharing procedure. So I do think the in person is great. I wish there was a better way to find someone to do that instead of posting somewhere. As I hammer home quite a bit, you got to go to live networking events and make that personal connection with someone, and then hopefully ask them, "Hey, can I sit in on something?" But just soliciting someone off the internet without knowing them, I think is going to be tough.
It is tough, and in fact, it's one of the things that we really don't permit for those reasons because it's just way too easy for a newer editor to get taken advantage of in some way, shape, or form, and we kind of lean against that sort of stuff. I encourage people frequently to find somebody in person for those exact reasons that you've mentioned. And interestingly, this other piece of this leans in that same direction. Part of this Ask a Pro thread, which is I have finished as a graphic designer with other programs like Illustrator and Photoshop. I've learned Premiere. These three programs are core. What are my options if I want to expand on my video editing professionally? Is freelancing viable? And others recommendations where I could start with. And I look at this and I'm assuming, they went to school for it. And I go, man, did you take an internship? You need to go and they say, by the way, basically due to health issues, I can only work from home and I have some connections for jobs I could take. I'm clueless when it comes to video editing. My advice to this person would be 1,000% go do the graphic design jobs, start the video editing, find somebody else that you can start somehow slow subcontract for because you're not ready for clients. And it's that whole Upwork Fiverr thing being just taking advantage to the lowest common denominator for this sort of stuff.
I'd agree. Certainly, Fiverr and Upwork and the others can help put food on the table, but I don't think they're going to make anyone rich by any means. I think freelancing is viable, but what I found is that if you're an editor, learning more motion design tools can make you more approachable because then they don't have to hire out a graphics person and a video person. I rarely see someone who does motion graphics for a living say, "I'm going to learn Premiere." That I normally don't see that as much. It's normally video folks, move into doing motion effects and do both, not motion effects, and I'm going to learn how to edit as well. It's odd that it doesn't go both ways, but I'd certainly recommend, if you are editing video, learn more motion tools, because that's just going to make you more valuable and you'll be able to charge more out in the market.
We're gonna
But to your
we're,
point,
we're gonna talk
go
about
ahead.
that later anyway.
We are, but to your point, and I have nothing but empathy for someone who has to stay at home due to health issues or whatnot, or maybe just has social anxiety. I completely understand that, but you have to understand, in today's post-production landscape, whether it be cutting wedding videos or whether it be working on feature films, it's because you're meeting people, and people know who you are. And without getting out and meeting these people, you really have to hustle online to make those personal connections, because just finding someone with a thumbnail of your head and what you can do, that's just going to be tough. You have to make an impression with somebody.
Agreed. Here's that concept come to fruition, or that struggle on the further along the line in their career. Manjis11 says, "Hi, I've come for career advice. I'm a Mexican cinematographer with 11 years of experience. I've applied to more than 300 jobs. Now, Michael, this is interesting. They say, which I hate, just from the psychological point of view, what's wrong with me? Am I missing something? I want to know how to be better. I've included a copy of my resume, and the resume's in there. And for me, at every level, the application of jobs, especially unsolicited, just isn't the way. This person's been working for 11 years. They should go to every person they've liked working with, from above or below them, because that person who was like an associate producer on something, they now may be the executive producer or something. But man, this is a reason to reach out to your network and go, hey, do you want to get a beer? I'd love to hear what you're doing, person
Mhm.
I caught up with, because that becomes a natural conversation for, hey, Michael, what, now that I've asked what you're doing, you're going to logically ask me what I'm doing. And I'm going to tell you, well, it's a little slow. I'm looking for some work. And it puts a perfect opportunity for you to offer me
I I
work.
could I could not agree more. I can't imagine applying to 300 jobs, and I don't want to disparage um, uh, uh, Man Just One.
And just one.
I don't want to disparage Man Just One at all. But when you look at the number 300, besides being a movie, the number 300 tells me that there's just some auto submit, auto submit, auto submit, and you're just a faceless person.
I
And as we keep hammering, go ahead.
no, you're dead on. It's that problem we have across the board with, it takes zero effort to send your PDF to one more place. Zero effort.
And I'm wondering where these jobs are being applied from. Is it LinkedIn? Is it Upwork or Fiverr, as we've discussed? Is it it's not like Mandy, right? Mandy's still around, I believe. Is it Craigslist? I'm just wondering where some of these jobs are coming from. But to your point, as I've looked at this person's resume, um, you've got some experience. Now,
Good
I
experience.
good experience. So I'm really wondering why he hasn't, excuse me, why they haven't been able to find a job. I think to your point earlier, and I know we're hammering it on at this episode, it's you you got to meet people. You got to have a bond.
And that's the hardest thing, is that sometimes, because of the nature of the freelance part of the industry, you find yourself with a hole needing work because you need the income coming in, and you're sending out 300 because it's something you can do in less than a day. Hitting submit, coordinating and calling people is slow and harder. Like, our heart goes out for you. And it was Manjus, right? Manjus.
Yeah.
Manjus one.
Did man just say where he was located? Oh, excuse me.
Mexico
Where
City.
they're
Mexico City.
Mexico City.
And it's a huge
You know what?
city. There's a ton of production there.
There's a ton of production work there, yeah. I'd also look into, Latin America, even farther south. There's a lot of production going on, and, I'd hope that this person is looking there as well, because I'm seeing nothing but job opportunities, in Brazil, et cetera, further south. So I hope this person's looking there as well too.
And of course, Manjus, if you do hear this, we'd love to have an update, on how you're doing.
Mhm. Please.
Meanwhile, let's switch to our second long form. It's the beginning of the end. I just saw this promo for Runway ML, and I'll bring this up, but I'm not going to click through it. Um, Basically, it's a text to video content, and I think at one point in it it says make it more cinematic. It's a new AI tool for text-driven video editing from Runway ML. I happen to be a member. I use their product because I think it does some very impressive background removal and in painting, not locally on my machine. Uh, I'm hoping to get access. Michael, you're the one who brought up this thread. Talk to us about it.
This is a very common thought, and there's a lot of scared people out there. So let's just set the table. If you're not familiar with AI, artificial intelligence, you also may want to look up ML, machine learning, and AI ML is in the nascent stage. To be clear, we're not moving off coal yet, folks. Right? We still need people with rock crushers and shovel swings. Okay. Um, a few things to consider: creating visual elements, or through some of the AI tools online, or generating an image or removing a background. We can barely do that right now. Right? That's a still image, let alone creating a tool that can create photorealistic or even animated video in a decent amount of time at 30 frames a second. Right? That I worked with a tool last week which generated 1 second of video based on keywords, and it looked like a 4-year-old with a crayon. Right? The technology is not there yet. I think one of the best responses here was from 20 frames per second. 20 frames per second says no AI is going to sit in a room with a bunch of ad agency creatives who can't decide what color yellow is or make the endless changes that come from people without a clue. The only groups that should be concerned by this are TikTok and YouTubers. Bold, we professionals have nothing to worry about. And I think that's where everyone has to realize it's not just today, not this month, not next year. It's for the foreseeable future. People who are making a living off being creatives, video editing, motion graphics, etc., your job is not in danger. And I think another angle to this is why I have a career, and that's Cut It said, client says, we can't operate this AI tool thingy properly. Can you come in and help me? Sure. Senior editor and AI video specialist, $1,200 a day. And I think that's fantastic.
Listen to this one.
Mhm.
Good while it lasted. Had a client in the room say, don't give me what I asked for, give me what I need. And Vincible Andy, who does lots of great posts on here across the board, I want the leftmost light pole removed. Can you blur the background by about 2 f-stops at 322? That's an invisible client, the real client. Something's distracting about that shot. Maybe the street's too busy. Later on, the sky's too distracting. Maybe you just got to do a full recut. And can you change it back to how it was before lunch? This is one of my pet areas that I've been for the last 5 or so years. It's why I'm on Runway ML. It's why I'm on Descript. This is one of my pet areas of research, is all the ML, all the AI pieces. And with that line, of course, always that its first place of value is removing the crap work. When the little AI piece, somebody types in make it cinematic, it's throwing on a stupid contrasty LUT. It's not doing anything magic. If it's drawing for pictures that, are exciting or whatever, it's hit some database of stock imagery and just grabbing the stock shots and cutting where movement happens. You know, uh, it's got a long way to go, but I imagine if I was a marketing exec with no budget, maybe I could go to this and it would produce something less crappier than the stuff I would do off of my iPhone and the magic movie mode on it.
I'm
Do
it could
do asks, and I pardon me for interrupting. Do you think the AI cut the promo? Do you think the AI cut the promo, Michael?
I didn't watch it because I didn't want to be tracked by AI. No, I'm joking. No, I don't think AI cut it, although that would have been it certainly would have made sense for the ad. What I can't agree with you more. AI is going to make the time-consuming, boring things easier, and will introduce problems that you'll have to fix. I think what AI will then eventually do is, since it is cutting the time down that you're spending doing pedestrian things, unfortunately, that's going to then compress the post time frame a little bit. And now you're going to have to do more work in less amount of time before folks realize, oh, wait, this doesn't, just because I have this tool doesn't mean I have less time. I still need just as much time. So I think that's something that people are going to have to learn. But no one is going to be, no one on this sub who makes a living as a video editor and or motion graphics person is going to lose a job to AI anytime soon.
So the thing that, we talk about this around AI, about how it can save us from painful parts. And the real shame is that I'm not about to do a commercial for Runway ML. It is painful to me because I should have a referrer code and all that garbage, and I'm not just not. I I don't know how to handle that well subreddit wise, but basically, what they've got, their initial claim to fame was having a very, very good interface for a background video removal. But Michael, here's the kicker: you can set keyframe points to go, you're
Mhm.
working well here, you're working poorly here, and it does right there. That gives Adobe's Roto brush tool a run for the money for somebody who doesn't know how the Roto brush tool works. It's faster because you don't have to get into all the small pixel stuff. And then, as a crazy thing, Michael, their tool will export, if you want, a matte that can then come into your software. So you can just use the matte and maybe clean up the matte further if you wanted. There are a couple other tools on the market that do stuff like this. One is uh, Lace has a plugin called Goodbye Green Screen that's Windows only, that does that background removal. And Runway's whole thing is they're trying to push the needle about what they can do faster to get you into another subscription cost. And for the frustrated, underpriced marketing person, under budgeted, they go, I don't even have to buy software. It's got an editor. And for the post production professional, it gives me a faster way to do things that suck, like background removal, roto work.
The pedestrian stuff, the stuff that gets in the way of you creating.
Absolutely. And I think that takes care of our long form. And I think we should jump into our short forms. All right, short forms. This is where Michael and we got it, let's see, queued up here about 9-10 threads. I'm going to try and bang through them in less than 10 minutes. Michael, let's start off with this. Help.
Wait, I never agreed to less than 10 minutes.
Oh, I know.
That's not in my contract.
It's
No,
not in your
that's not gonna
contract,
fly.
but you do this wonderful thing where you keep me focused on keeping stuff short and brief at times. And we're going to do that here as short forms. That's why short form exists, so we can cover more threads faster. So, help. The royalty-free music I've been cutting to all day is stuck in my head. Can't get it out. Ooh.
The times that I've had that, I've had to go for a walk, or actually more like a car drive, and just put on Spotify, put on Pandora, and that helps. I also have a odd affinity for listening to the same song over and over, and so that helps as well. But yeah, if you get yakety sax or something like that caught in your head, God help you.
I will let you know that there is like one of my first jobs, they cut something to a commercial song. I must have listened to that song. And they had everybody sing it, and we cut it
Can you
against the
name the
singing.
song?
I can't. I can, but I can't. Literally speaking, Michael, literally, I must have listened to the song 1,000 times in like less than 2 weeks. And I can never listen to the song again. It took a while. It's like 20 years ago, 15 years ago. Still can't listen to the song. But I will tell you that if you do get an earworm song, what I'm told works is in your head, hearing the end of the song and it finishing at least can get you past it. Beyond that, a lot of drugs and alcohol, I'm sure, is wonderful. I'm sure that's the source and the solution to a lot of problems.
Okay, next up on the list.
Next up on the list, do employers prefer proficiency at one software or another? Employers, no. Your career, yes. Employers don't give a damn as long as you do the work and get it done fastly and make the clients happy. Michael?
Completely agree. I will throw out a fringe case. When I got married, I hired videographers and they were going to edit the video. And I said, well, I need to be able to edit it. So what are you editing in? And I was this person's worst nightmare because I'm saying, what cameras? What are you editing in? I need a drive so it's formatted properly. And I'm sure that person wishes I was never born. But to your point, employers are going to care because they have workflows and gear based on that. Clients may not care. I think the best advice in here was from Real Stu Beggs. And his general advice is learn more. And what I love about that is if you watch the my 5 things, my closing motto is learn more, do more, because that's the only way you're going to get further in this. I also, and this is selfish, someone calls out BuzzFeed in there. And I got to mention that when I was at Bebop, BuzzFeed was a client of ours, and we got at least several months ago, there were nearly 50 creatives all working on Adobe software in the cloud with centralized storage in the cloud. So it works, and BuzzFeed is a great example of that.
I'm everything you said is dead on. I'm just going to add as the button for this one. My father, early in my life, said, the day you stop learning is the day your brain starts dying. So I would tell you that if you don't learn a different piece of software, go learn a musical instrument. Go get out of your comfort zone. But yeah, there are things like learning After Effects hurt nobody. Learning Audition, learning audio tool hurt nobody. Not knowing it can often lose a job when it comes down to it. Let's take us to Resolve Studio. Worth the price for the studio version, Michael?
Yeah. Oh, completely. I think we've, as a culture, we've gotten used to iTunes, the App Store, Google Play, and we're used to free and cheap things. And 300 to us seems like a huge bite. Now, again, I'm not a gatekeeper, meaning you need to spend a ton of money to learn something, but the features that are there for $300, which if you're a professional, you can make $300 relatively, not, I don't want to say easily, but if you are billing and you have clients, you can hit $300, right?
I got one
But
in there. I got one in here. One tool. I got 2 tools in here. So I teach Resolve. I'm a master trainer. I teach train the trainer classes for them. I know the software back and forth, and there's still things that I don't know, like at the endless well, the bucket of Cliff. And I could say that about Avid, about Premiere, etc. But I got 2 that, Michael, I don't think you know, and I'll mention them to you. The first tool is they have a debander. You can, in the color page, remove banding artifacts from 8 to 10 bit stuff, but you can actually have it dither and fix it for you. And if you're really good at it, you build a shape around it so it's not the entire image. They also have something called the color compressor. And like when you have somebody whose skin color, goes from yellow to red, like my skin does, or and you want to just pull all the colors towards a color with a magnet, that's what a color compressor does. And it's right there. Those 2 things are worth $300 as a plugin. So if you think of it as a really crazy functional plugin, it's a wonderful tool. That the fact that you could use it for edit, color, and all other sorts of things, yes, it's totally worth the $300. And
there are, go ahead.
I hope you're profitable enough that you go, oh, yeah, I do need that actually. Go ahead, Michael.
There's, in my estimation, there's 3 A features, or as my partner, my wife says, there's 3 A plus features and then 3 A features because everything is A. The larger than UHD exports, GPU acceleration, and supporting more formats like 10-bit 264, fantastic. I think Sushi Ravioli goes over all the features. Invincible Andy does the equivalent of let me Google this for you so you can find all those. The other ones that I love, noise reduction, which is massive. A lot of times you can salvage things if you can bring up colors, then use noise reduction to get rid of some of that.
Although I'm going to tell you the $80 or so neat video can fix some things that Resolve can't.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Neural Engine also, especially when you're making skin changes, skin tone adjustments, and the addition of the several dozen Resolve effects that come with the $300 version, it's a no-brainer.
It is a no-brainer. It's just
it's a no-brainer.
But it's me, if you were using Final Cut or Avid or Premiere, uh, it's a no-brainer, and you can, Adobe, for example, they don't care if you use Avid if you pay for the Adobe license. They don't care. If you want to just use Audition, use just Audition in Photoshop. And Blackmagic doesn't care why you use Resolve. They would like you. The whole reason the free version exists is so you try it and you go, wow, that would be useful. Yeah, you know what? I do want that acceleration. I do want that neural engine stuff. I do want that AI stuff.
And I want a card, and I want a keyboard, and all the hardware that
And I want a
that Blackmagic makes
pony.
money off
I want a pony and a car and a Tesla. And that brings us to uh, Bob asking for any reports from IBC. IBC, the International Broadcasters Conference, which just finished this past week. Uh, Bob Zellin asking anything exciting. Michael, you get to do the report on this one. You have some exciting stuff here.
Yeah, we'll make this really brief because this is short form, not let Michael expound and expose on things and pontificate. But the big one I thought was AJA. AJA has their color box, which is built for color transforms. So if you're on set or live production or sports and you're transforming from maybe HDR to SDR and this forward to that format, it will make sure the colors are looking right. So you can see exactly what it's going to look like when you're done. And that is fantastic. I think what I'm really looking at is how this could be used for remote color grading. I'm really interested to see if they
There,
could
there are
pull that
tools in
off.
that there are tools in that space. They tend to be expensive or convoluted. And
Right.
the hardest part is like, great, my client's getting a 10-bit signal. Oh yeah, but they've plugged it into a crappy monitor. So, they can, I mean, there are some colorists I know, Michael, who will ship a system with a color graded screen that they've calibrated, and they can do a remote grade regardless of where they are in the world. Uh,
I'm interested to see a setup with this and Resolve because now we're talking about AJA and Blackmagic and then both putting out but different signals. I'm curious to see how well that works together.
I would say that Blackmagic would look at it then and go, "Wow, we really need this. We'll do it for half the price. We'll give it away and get you a Resolve license while you're at it." The
There's
one
a couple. Go ahead.
No, no, I wanted to take us to the next part of this and then move us to the next topic. Um, but please finish.
A couple more things briefly. Adobe had some updates with Frame.io, which of course they acquired last year. They have some updates to Premiere Pro for speech to text and music retiming. The Frame.io updates were with Moses for production workflows. Resolve 18, speaking of Blackmagic, is now available, and I believe the final version of the Blackmagic proxy generator
Hmm.
is out there. And they also support Apple's M1 Ultra chip, which is great. That's a chip I have, and I'm looking for that kind of acceleration. Plus, they have a new ATEM switcher, DeckLink monitors, and yet another 6K pocket cinema camera.
Wow, wow, that's Blackmagic. Um,
As someone who was working in the cloud, and I am working quite extensively, Avid introduced the Avid Nexus VFS file system, which is virtualizing the Avid file system and virtualizing that in the cloud on Microsoft Azure to enable you to use Nexus storage in the cloud in with your production locally. I believe right now it's only on Azure, but there was an announcement obviously a few weeks ago with Avid working with Amazon Studios. So obviously that's going to be an AWS. So it'll be interesting to see where the virtual file system is going to lie in the future.
I think that their approach for their product is really smart. Because they're not giving away the keys, they're not giving away a free tool. They're just trying to like hit like that for me has been Avid's MO for their most critical markets. They keep hitting home runs for the workflow. Forget whether or not you like the interface or the feature set. For like their groups, they do a great job of finding that spot that makes them invaluable.
Mhm.
I'm going to wrap unless you've got one more. I want to
No,
mention the
no,
last item
hit it.
here. I just love any sort of inclusive technology. And AI sign language is the first thing I thought is really cool. It says new mic 3400. I love the idea. It still takes like a day. It's not like NLE captions. It can be done in like minutes. But I love the idea that you could have, because it'll eventually get to be real time. I love the idea that you could have sign language happening. Of course, the deeper version of it is could I get the different flavors of sign language, as for different languages and those sort of translations. But I just love how when these tools become super inclusive. I have a whole rant, which is another time, another effort on people who don't upload captions for their work. But that's for another day. Let's jump to our next one, my friend.
Okay.
It's right related to it. NAB is coming to New York, October 19th to the 20th. Are you going? And it's our Bob Zellin who posted the other one. And he said, I can't believe nobody's going. He posted like 3 hours later. He never let this develop and then probably went down. I'm going, Michael. I'm south of New York. I'm doing some work at the event. I'm absolutely going. If enough Redditors mention it, I'll figure out a way that we can get somebody to take care of a get together with at least one drink on them. Uh,
Is AES going on at the same time? I recall a couple years ago they had AES in the same convention center, so you could go to both.
uh, I don't know. Maybe
Okay.
I should find out. I'll tell you that Post Magazine typically did an open bar that night, and I always had that rush of trying to grab the train home. I may not. I'm going to look to see, and I'll do an announcement on the subreddit. Uh, and while New York got hard, you know, it shows like NAB, you can pretty much find somebody who will let you get to the show floor. That part's easy. You shouldn't have to pay to get to the show floor of NAB. And if you
And you can probably get through the NAB New York, floor in a day. It's
three,
not.
4 hours, 3 to 4 hours at
Yeah,
most.
yeah.
Although, what a wonderful opportunity it is to get to be known by one of those manufacturers and have a personal relationship than some contact me form on a website, which is a lot of why I go to that stuff.
Also, because it's not as heavily trafficked, you don't have to wait in line to talk to someone. Now, one thing I dislike is, hey, I'm going to go there and ask you a technical question. And you're going to help me through this technical issue that's really involved, which you can try and do. But a lot of people on the sales floor are, salespeople. But you do get to meet with these folks in a one-on-one space that is not clouded by the amount of people at NAB, which is just a madhouse. So I highly recommend it and as you said, it's really easy to get a comped pass to the show floor.
Nor does it hurt for that pet problem because they probably know somebody inside the company who can get you a little bit more direct help. Works either way. I'll mention I hate standing in line at events, especially trade shows. And a mutual friend of ours, Monica, invited me years ago to go to Comic Con, and I made a rookie mistake on a day I was by myself of walking around the show floor and waiting in line. And I will never wait in line again for tchotchke level material. The only thing I'm ever going to wait in line for like that show, like Comic Con, is for key exclusive interviews that I can't get some other way.
Did Monica have a hack to not wait in line?
No, no, no.
Oh,
She and I
okay.
spent like 6, 7 hours standing in line, sitting in line for Hall H to eventually get there for some of the Walking Dead and Joss Whedon and a couple other groups. And it was a blast, but oh dear Lord, have I never sat in heat outside that long, since I was a kid. What software do you have clients use remotely view an editing session? And I'm going to throw in the note there. This isn't asynchronous. This is have clients remotely view an editing session. We've got some great answers here, such as Evercast, such as OBS, such as NDI out of your system along with NDI of your screen. A lot of zoom in here. Michael, do you have any thoughts on this?
Oh,
Oh, hold on,
if this
hold
does
on. We
not
got we got
work.
to get Looper in there too. Got to not forget Looper, who's such a great product. Looper.io.
Ever since the cloud, came into prominence and then, the pandemic happened, I've had more conversations on this than anything else, and so I'll try and limit the rant, but at a base level, you mentioned some great products, and everyone tries free, and then everyone realizes that the free products, are good for what we call screen scrapes, which is scan converting or taking snapshots of your screen and sending that. And that's garbage. Those are dumpster fires because those are not meant for full frame rate, for the 20% of the screen is static, 80% is moving. With sync audio and video, they're not meant for that. They're meant for IT folks or video conferencing. Video conferencing has 20% of the screen moving, 20% of the screen moving, 80% static. It's not meant for it. They suck. If you're trying to do something with a tight editing and sync audio video, don't use it. So although Jump and Parsec and Splash and No Machine are great for that, they're not great for video. NDI, fantastic, high quality. If you have the bandwidth for it, tie it into Zoom, tie it into Teams. The quality won't be as great because you're still dealing with Zoom or Teams, which are meant for video conferencing, but they work. What I'm a big fan of is any tool that can look into the timeline of the application you're using, because then you're looking at how the NLE is controlling frame rate and audio and video and color instead of dealing with how the OS sees things. So when you're working with plugins like NDI plugins for Premiere, or you're working with AVID's output, which AVID already has WebRTC built in, when you're working with those, then you're getting the cream of the crop because you're dealing with the NLE handling that. If you're looking at other things like Evercast, which got big during the pandemic, that's based off OBS, which is a free software, or Pack Post, which is also, I believe, based on OBS. Those are good, but they can also be pretty expensive because you're also paying for someone else's cloud infrastructure. So I highly recommend you look into things that A, patch into the NLE, B, are paid and have support and let you do a trial. The kind of ones that I think you brought up briefly, which is great, is Looper. Looper is fantastic. The thing I would also
He's
caution is,
by the way, the CEO
yeah,
is a Redditor, and he every now and then shows up in our editors. The thing that I think makes the Evercast level or something like Looper just so much more powerful is that idea that I'm not just going to share the screen sometimes, share the NLE timeline sometimes, but we're going to do a live chat at the same time. So we're doing everything in one location. It's kind of that's frames appeal. If you've never encountered this, Michael, I keep encountering poor editors who end up posting stuff on Frame for their clients, and then the clients send them a Google Doc of the changes instead of doing it right inside of. I swear to God, I swear to all that is holy. I've gotten this complaint so often that somebody said to me, Jeff, would you do a quick screen? Like, could you, like, in less than 90 seconds, show somebody what they should do? I'm like, yeah, of course I can. There's no reason you. And he's like, they still wouldn't watch it anyway. Um, the whole item here that I think this person is really driving at is they're trying to recreate, I think, the best versions of this, recreate the best of what's in Suite and the best of accountability as far as approval.
one thing I do want to caution folks, because I ran into this on the daily, is that when you're working at a facility where there's security and there's firewalls, a lot of these solutions can't sniff around and bypass security because it's security. So you have to interface with your ITIS folks and say, I need these ports open, I need these ports forwarded, because a lot of these won't work with that. And it's not a fault of the software. It's a fault because usually firewalls and rules are a cluster, and that's what's causing the blockage. So if you're going to use remote review and approve tools live, work with your IT folks to make sure they're tested and the ports are opened appropriately.
1,000%. Let's bring this over to BMO downgrades Adobe, says there are long-term concerns for the durability of Creative Cloud. I'm going first on this one. No, there's not. No, there's not. And I mean, like, I don't know who Equity Pandit is, or Equity Panda, or whatever they're called. I get what's going on. Money's tight for everybody. If I look at a $600 subscription plus a year, it makes me hesitant to say I want to use it. I'd rather pay for something that's way more inexpensive as a one and a done, whether it's Resolve, whether it's Final Cut. Even Avid, monthly is cheaper than Creative Cloud. But there's no long-term concerns about durability here. I gotta question these people's jobs.
If you were to swap out the name Adobe for Avid or swap out the name Adobe for Final Cut, I'd have the same answer. That's garbage. And it's not because I have any allegiances to the NLEs. It's there is such a chasm between professional editing systems, Resolve included. Pardon me for not mentioning that. There's such a chasm between that and free or cheap or $1.99 things on the store, that there is no way the professional those four NLE manufacturers are going to lose money because someone is working with that software. So the free or mobile software at this point in time. So I don't think there's anything to be worried about from a professional level.
All right. Where to post my video editing portfolio. And the reason I brought this up is just, and this one's a quick one and done here, um, is just that concept that I come up with each week, which is the struggle isn't getting your portfolio up there. It's getting people, it's business, that's business cards. It's the personal stuff, it's the career thread, the group that really wants you and really has actual dollars. You know somebody who works there, or you know somebody who knows somebody. You're not going to get that cushy job because of your reel.
The only caveat I would bring up, and this is because I've worked with some marketing folks who are inexperienced and know any of my former coworkers. I'm not talking about any of you, but there are younger marketing folks who don't understand our industry, and so they'll say, "I need an editor for something," and they'll find someone and they'll say, "Can I look at your reel?" Right? And we know that we don't hear that a lot, but there are some people in the marketing realm who are not in feature film, television, et cetera, who don't understand that and say, I want to see a reel because I want to make sure you know how to do a talking head. Okay,
Sure.
then it makes sense to have some things posted somewhere you can share.
I also think that keeping some awareness publicly. I know a lot of colorists and some editors love posting their work on Instagram. Look at this work I've just done. Look at this client I've just worked with, when they have the permission to do those sort of things. And that's very, very, very powerful as well. But the concept of where to put my portfolio, it's your website. It's not going to get you the work. It's going to make sure that the formatting of your resume conforms to this sort of BS pseudo world. And God bless you if you've gotten work other ways, and they don't know you and they've never heard of you before. That's great. But for the bulk of us, there's a reason there's companies that used to be in, well, that are in business selling business cards. It's because it's like you need to have something to walk away and point to. And somebody points out in here that it's often, so somebody, if the hiring doesn't go right, that you can point to well, this is what their portfolio looks like. It's a CYA item.
That brings up a good question for this, to make this short, maybe medium. Do we need websites nowadays? If you're an editor and you post things on Vimeo or maybe even YouTube on a unlisted link, make it unlisted, right? But if you have that as your reel, as your portfolio, do you need a website? I have my thoughts on there, but what do you think? Do you think people need websites now?
I think you need some sort of landing space. There's a friend of mine. She's I think Linktree.
Mhm.
Linktree or personal portfolio, personal one-page sites, and I need to publish mine and revamp it. But I looked at hers and it was great, great, great. And then I looked deeply, and she had every event sort of. She had like three at the top, and then every item. And I said, "Oh my God, she's turned Linktree into a blogging site with just the titles." And there's no voting up and down. It's not Reddit, but literally she's turned Linktree into this, like, here are the upcoming thing, the thing I once did, my website, and then everything below it was just item after item after item she did. And I'm kind of like, didn't you want like a blog page that does it? I guess it's nice because it's Linktree and it's a single click for Instagram. I get that. But I looked at it and I'm like kind of scratching my head. So my answer to you is yeah. I think that having your own space is nice along those lines. It can be free space, it can be a, WordPress, whatever. But I think that that still is super crazy useful. What about you?
I don't think a website, if you are, and I mean no disrespect, if you're just an editor, meaning that's what you do 9 to 5, 9 to 6, 9 to 9, whatever, and you're cutting, you get paid, you go home to your family, that's fantastic. If you're okay with that's what I do, here are the clips, move on, you don't need one. But I think most folks who are creatives are diversifying. So maybe they do motion graphics, maybe they also do video editing, maybe they do consulting, maybe they did something for the 24-hour, 48-hour film festival. Maybe they're mixing their personal life with their professional life. And maybe they want to expose the virtues of, hey, I volunteer this. You know what? I do this with my church. Then having a website that can showcase all of that where you can't showcase that on Vimeo or YouTube, it makes complete sense. Or if you're just so creative, and again, I'm not disparaging anyone, where I don't like the way Vimeo looks, I don't like the way YouTube looks, I want to lay things out in a way that says me, do it. So, but I don't think it's a necessity, but I think for a majority of creatives, it makes sense to have one. And I think also on the little bit of the other side is if you do want to put a face to your name and what you stand for and what you believe in and how you want people to think of you. Putting a website out there and then juicing SEO, right? So when people search for things, it gets to your site, you're framing your own narrative. And I get that, especially in the era of personal branding. I completely understand that.
So I
So in that bit,
I have an interesting item here. How do you
mhm.
feel about a restaurant that only has a Facebook page for the restaurant? It drives me bonkers. It drives me
It drives
crazy.
me bonkers because how many people are using Yelp to find things? And
It,
Yelp is gonna wanna index, something else than that.
right, but it's particularly that they don't have an actual website. It's like Google Maps is their location and Facebook is where they do their announcements and where they publish their menu. I have a Facebook account. I hate using it for so many billions of reasons, including privacy stuff, which is meaningless at this point, but it drives me crazy. And I feel that if I was sitting back and I was looking at four different people for gigs and I got, two reels with websites for three of them, but one guy only has an Instagram page and I can't find their website, I'm a little hesitant. But again, I might be mired in old sorts of thoughts. This is a great way to interact with us here, a part of Star Wipes. Great way to interact with us. And on that note, collaborative editing tools and programs. I'll try not to mention the misspelling there. I work with a client uploads twice a day, hiring lots of additional editors. On top of that, he's got a new content niche. We were wondering if it was possible for, I'm, I'm laughing as I say this, Michael, for all of us to work on a video collaboratively. Does anybody have experience with this? Um, Michael, could you and I, could we write, can we speak at the same time? Can we literally write an article simultaneously at the same time where you're at the beginning of a sentence and I'm at the end of a sentence?
I think that would be messy as hell.
Yeah. I think you can subdivide the work. Michael, I'm going to write the introduction. You write the conclusion. John over there or Katie over there, she can write the meat in the middle. In episodic television, they sometimes will switch based on reels, A, B, and C plots. They'll sometimes switch based on feature films. I'll take this scene. Who's ever up next does the next scene, but nobody works on the same timeline at the same time.
No, in fact, I don't believe there are any NLEs that support that without some kind of accident collision, some kind of air collision, a traffic cop. I think the things that you're probably speaking about, if I'm reading between the very big lines here, are things like using Avid Media Composer and utilizing their shared storage system or an emulated shared storage system where multiple people can open the same project and then manipulate different bins with different timelines at the same
There
time.
are ways to work in
Mhm.
all the major NLEs simultaneously in the same project. Final Cut has it with a tool from PostLab. Adobe has it through their productions and teams based on what your needs are and how you handle locking. Blackmagic has it with their project-based servers, especially their cloud project server. All of this is possible. It's possible for 20 people to work in the same project, but not in the same timeline.
You got it.
Okay. Urgent. Need some advice for an assistant editor interview. Quick catch up. I went to school to study film. I got my first professional gig doing some audio cleanup, learned a lot. I've had somebody reach out who wants to interview me for an assistant editor role on what would be an in bold, me, I'm bold, they're in caps, really great opportunity It's a huge job. I'd have to sift through, organize the best stuff, snip out the gaps, and all sorts of red flags went up for me, my friend, with this thread because I hear this OP, and I want to mention the OP. I've forgotten to do that a couple times now. Accomplished Bother 12 posted this. My first thought was somebody is about to take advantage of this person because of the notoriety of whatever it is. They're throwing a lot of work at them. They know how long it takes them to do the work. But the whole idea is I can get somebody to do it cheaper who's desperate, willing, wants that gig. And then what really scares me is that they use really good opportunity in my head. If they get passed over or hate this job or whatever, in their head, they're like, there will be no more good opportunities for me.
Jeff, well, I agree with the last part, which is uh, about getting a job afterwards and they won't be able to get any more work. Listen, I know someone who took a crap at Jim Cameron's toilet and he's been totally employable for the past 25 years. So that's not an issue. For you to get boxed out of getting a job later in the industry because of how you performed here is
It's
ridiculous.
worrying. It's worrying that it's your only opportunity. Somewhere in there is a Titanic joke. I'm going to let it go. Uh, on that note, nearly our last shortcut, stereo mix making dialogue sound muddy, unintelligible in live venue. Basically, our OP here, I'm I'm a yellow fellow. That person is dealing with an engineer who won't let them have access the way they need to check the playback. I'm the person who gave the suggestion. I think it's still something valid and I use today. They should use an EQ on their speakers, on the track ideally, and push up some of the speech parts on the EQ and lower the other areas. Let's call it roughly around 1,000 hertz, a little bit below, a little bit above. Give it a little bit of extra push and pull down everything else. And they should do the opposite of that into the music, where they're removing the parts of speech, and their speakers in this mix will be more intelligible because you'll be able to hear the parts of speech. You, Michael, though, are also very knowledgeable about audio. Do you have any things you'd like to add there?
Yeah, as I did audio for many years before I got into the tech side of things, and I've actually had this exact experience where you mix something, it sounds good on your monitors, and then you take it to a theater, and it sounds like garbage. So this is why you traditionally mix on good speakers and then have a set of crummy speakers, so you can, hey, if it sounds okay on the crappy version, it's going to sound okay on the good version. Couple of tips and tricks, which I'm sure you already know, but for people who are uninitiated, make sure your dialogue is panned dead center. If you're going to have effects, music, don't pan everything hard left and hard right. Carve some out in the mix, maybe 50% each way. Give it room to breathe. So, in the spatial area that you're listening in, things fall in different areas. What I'd also recommend, you brought up a good point, Jeff, about boosting the vocal range, is that use some more compression on the dialogue. Maybe raise it a little bit. Make sure the lows are a little bit higher, just so it sits above the music and effects, and that'll make it more intelligible. The only other thing you can do then is EQ it, and hopefully that'll do it. But hopefully some of those tips will help you.
I like that. EQ it, and that'll do it. That'll bring us to our last shortcut here. Go-to guide for editors transitioning from Avid 2018 to 2022 by Cut Monster. And I'm just going to go uh, first. I've taught a bunch of places, in a couple hours how to make this fairly painless. But there's no group that's ever changed the UI and said, oh, wow, we were wrong. We're going to put it back. They do things like an Avid, make everything floating, if you want it as an option, but what they don't do is like go, oh no, it'll go back. So my thing at the end of the day is you get their buy-in and you say to this group, hey, that Avid or Apple or anybody else's company ain't going to go backwards. They're not going to remove from Adobe that new export box, that new project box. So the best thing to do is learn with it and learn how to make it work for you rather than against you.
I'm sure you've done this a heck of a lot more than I have, Jeff, but all the facilities I've worked with that are moving, whether it be from Final Cut to Avid or Final Cut to Premiere or Premiere to Avid, it's always been cut what you need to in the product, and then we're going to give you extra time to move to the new version and cut the same thing, because in your head, you know what it's supposed to look like. You already know the tools. It's just finding them in the interface. And because you have keyboard shortcuts, if you use your keyboard shortcuts, you map them the same. And though you may not see where that menu option is, a majority, not all, a majority of those key cuts or those keyboard shortcuts are going to be on your keyboard. I think there's also some great tutorials. Kevin McAuliffe
Kevin
on
McAuliffe
YouTube,
does great work.
fantastic stuff. Even Avid, trust me, Avid knew the ish storm that was going to hit when 2018 2018.12 was the last version of the old interface. They knew what was coming. So Avid has tutorials on YouTube as well with how to make the jump from old to new.
I will at some point, some other day, talk to you about what I think about mapping all the keyboards identical, but it's not for today. Uh,
And not using colored keyboards, right?
I am not using colorized keyboards. I have a keyboard that's totally black right on my desk. But with that, I think that should take us to our next section, known as FMK. And now, coming back, comes our favorite section in here, known as FMK.
What do we have today, Jeff?
We have what kind of client sort of approval interaction do you want to FMK? Go Google it. Asynchronous, synchronous, which would mean remote, or live. Michael, I turn it
So
over to you
so to be
first.
clear,
Yep.
so to be clear, asynchronous is like video on demand. You watch it when you want to watch it.
Frame.io.
Frame.io or
As an
YouTube.
example, or Whipster.
Sync is real time, but someone's remote.
Zoom,
Right? They're somewhere
Looper,
else. And
Evercast.
got it. And live is someone in your room.
Someone right here.
Okay. Do you want to go first?
No, this is you first.
Okay, this is tough. But for F, I'm going to go with synchronous, because when it's good, it's so good, right? When you don't have, when there isn't text back and forth, and I don't understand what you meant, and oh, you meant that, as you mentioned earlier, that lamppost. No, the other lamppost. So when it's good, it's really good. So that's going to be F. Okay. M is Mary, obviously. That's going to be asynchronous, because it's the way of the future. For better or for worse, that's how things are going to be as we start working with creatives who are not in our same geographical area, who are remote, who are on the other side of the earth. Asynchronous, it's the way of the future, Mary. K is going to be in person, because I have to kill it, because it's the only one left and it's going away. In a perfect world, that would be what I'd marry. But in our industry, it's going to be slowly diminishing because of the success of being able to work remote. So I'm going to be brave like Apple when they removed the headphone port, and I'm going to kill it. I'm going to kill it now.
I'm going to close but disagree with you here. I'm going to definitely F async. No. Let me change that. I'm going to make that live. Not only is it when it works well, it works. I can see the expression on their face. It's harder for them to be distracted. Yeah, they're going to use their phone. Yeah, they're going to use the PlayStation. That's why the PlayStation's in the editing suite. It's so, I can get work done and get them to focus. But if I'm trying to do something interactive and I hate, I'm remote, I'm as remote as they get, I'll come to them. But that idea of the interpersonal, that's what relationships are made and broken on. And there's so much conversation that happens before we sit down and after we edit that's worth its weight in financial gold. And the M, I'm gonna marry the asynchronous. It's gonna, frame. It could be Whipster, it could be YouTube, but it's just that. Yep, that's never going to go away. That's going to, that's going to be the most convenient to your time zone and your lifestyle. I'm going to kill the synchronous. It's a crappy version of my feed. It's a crappy version of my screen. The color fidelity isn't there. Who knows what goddamn speakers they have and headphones. And they're so distracted because their camera sometimes is off. And they've got 9 websites on and they're texting their friend. As an educator, have that frustration. I'll still work. I'm happy to work synchronous. In fact, for teaching, it would be a different set. Synchronous, I love. I don't have to leave the house, kids. But from a post-production point of view, man, you're live in the room. You know the exact vibe. I might put the caveat that I'd want a producer in there just to have another friend, you know? So there's my FMK. I loved yours, though. I loved yours.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear a dissenting opinion because we tend to share a lot of the same outlooks on things. So
We
that's interesting.
we do, we'll have to pick something far, far more controversial. And of course, if you're watching this, we would like you to put something controversial beyond the obvious. No offense, we're not gonna do Final Cut, Premiere, Resolve, Avid. We're not, right? Because it so varies in any given day, and we love all and hate all those tools. And we're also like, I'm also not going to do Linux, Apple, Windows. I mean, it's just, I think it's too low hanging, you know? All right. And let's bring us to our divider and let's do our close. And we're going to bring up our close now. Hey, Michael, this one's a blast as always. This is episode 5, Five Fingered Freddy.
Freddy.
Wasn't that that was a Tom, what's his name film, wasn't
Tom
it?
Green and Drew
Tom
Barrymore.
Green. That's right.
Yeah.
Didn't they get married at one point?
I think they were married briefly. Yeah. I mean, my subscription to Entertainment Weekly has run out, so I can't swear to it, but I think they were.
Outstanding. Well, Michael, why don't you tell us where we can find you and what's going on, if there's something going on coming up?
You can find me on the socials at Michael Kammes. You can also track me down at michaelkammes.com. Yes, it's pronounced Kammes, like Thomas with a K. And also 5 Things series, which will be returning soon.com.
And you're AV Guru 1 all over our editors.
And the web. I decided a long time ago that if I'm going to use the internet, and I'm not going to hide behind anything. So you search AV Guru 1, you're going to find that in a lot of places.
I could not get it on, and I'm about to get disturbed by a little one. I could not get it on Reddit, but I am Jeff Greenberg. Hi. Quiet for just a moment. We're going to still keep that live. I have real interactors here. My name's Jeff Greenberg. I'm at J Greenberg Consulting. I'm Greenysmac, and I'm the guy who's most likely to reject your post. Thanks for watching. I couldn't do any of this without my friend Michael Kammes. Michael, have a good week. Thank you so much for your help. Thank you for your feedback. It's always joyous. Any last words, my friend?
Thanks, Rachel. You're awesome. And thank you, Jeff.
We need to get Rachel's stuff up here because we couldn't do any of this without a really good editor. Thanks for watching.